yesterday, and I'm actually wrapping up my visit after this, but obviously I wouldn't have gone home without meeting all of you. It is my second visit to Bahrain, but in a sense I would say really it's my first proper visit. It's my first proper. I was here in November 2020 to convey condolences when the late Prime Minister Prince Khalifa passed away. I missed Prime Minister's visit in August 2019. I had just become Minister at that time. So, as I said, this is really the first time I've got to spend some significant amount of time in Manama to meet all of you in these numbers and to get to see and understand and appreciate a lot of what is going on here. Now, I must tell you that in a way, there is really nothing like a visit to take stock of what is happening in a relationship, because when you come on a visit, there is a preparation, you focus on it. When you're here, you meet a lot of people, you meet them physically, there's a lot of open discussion about the relationship. And at the end of my 2 days, I must admit that I am actually very impressed, both by the state of the relationship as well as the appreciation that I've heard for the Indian community from the Bahraini leadership. So please don't think that I'm saying this as the departing formality of a visiting foreign minister. I really mean it as an impression that I have gathered over the last 2 days. So what have I been doing? Maybe that's a good place to start this meeting interaction. One, of course, my primary purpose of being here was to co-chair the Joint Commission with my counterpart, Foreign Minister Al-Zayani. We had some meetings yesterday. We had a very detailed meeting today. I also met the Trade Minister, Minister Fakhro. I had an opportunity to call on Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh Khalid. So in terms of official meetings, really it was very intensive, very open, very wide-ranging. But I did think, this place really was something, wherever you go, you want to make the fullest use, and in this case I timed my visit with the Manama dialogue. There had been a long-standing invitation from the government of Bahrain. So yesterday, along with 2 other colleagues, including my host, I delivered the I attended the closing session of the dialogue. Today, I also took time out and I visited the causeway. I had a reason for doing so, I must tell you. I've heard a lot about the causeway, and one of the things we tried to do today as ministers of the Modi government, we'll go around the world looking at interesting experiences, looking at projects, looking at initiatives of other countries, and seeing is there something out there which is worth understanding and from which there are takeaways for ourselves. And I must say I was very impressed by the traffic and the volume of the traffic and the efficiency of the causeway. I, of course, like anybody Indian coming here, took blessings at Srinathji temple yesterday morning. I met some of you on that occasion as well. As part of meeting others who had come for the Manama dialogue, I'd actually also met some other foreign ministers and some people who are involved in maritime security issues involving the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. So that's really the background with which I come to meet you today. And I understand, as the Indian community living here, your focus would naturally be on our bilateral relations. You would like to know, okay, what is happening here, where is it going, what are the prospects, what does it mean to you? And I have some thoughts here which I would like to place before you. First and foremost, the fact that every relationship requires a continuous interaction in a way between the leaderships of the countries. That if countries have to understand each other, if they have to get along with each other, like people, if in your own lives, if you want to be friends with somebody, you are friends with somebody by spending time with them. Something similar also happens between countries, and definitely Foreign Minister Al-Zayani and I, wherever we meet, not just here or in India, it could be, we met last time in Riyadh, before that in New York. So we have, over a period of time, tried to develop a culture where ministers and leaders of Bahrain and India, because it's not just me, our trade ministers, for example, also met very recently in Delhi, that we try to see that, there's as much interaction and open and positive conversation between our leaderships. The second development which I want to flag to you is, of course, the economic facet of our ties. We have today a growing trade relationship. Our annual trade turnover is about $1.7 billion. And there's also been an uptick in investments both ways. Indian companies coming here, Bahrainis looking at India. But these are numbers which can always be bigger. And they become bigger not by themselves. People have to work at it. Many of you are from the business world. In the business world, you will always have issues and problems and some obstacles somewhere. It's important that people who are in positions of responsibility in the government know those problems. And we will only know those problems when business talks to business and business talks to government. And part of the reason I'm here and part of the reason why we want to encourage economic cooperation is actually to get these, to get the chambers exchanging visits, to get individual business people to talk to others, to have the kind of delegation that we had recently for Bahrain for one of our CII events. So how do you identify issues? How do you resolve issues? And this is constant work in progress. There's never any end to it. No country has a perfect business environment. Everybody can do with some improvement, and part of the improvement is the honesty to know what are problems and then to have the commitment to resolve it. The third pertains to the interests of the community, because when a community in sizable numbers, those of you sitting in the room, you represent today a community of 335,000 people. Now 335,000 people living in a country away from their motherland will have their own interests and will have their concerns, and those also need to be looked at, and those also, wherever, whatever and in whichever manner government can do to support those interests. So it could be visa problems, it could be travel convenience, it could be issues pertaining to the faith of the community, to the economic needs of the community, to educational institutions, that kind of support. So what can we do to support the community better? I think this is something which has been in many ways the hallmark of the Modi government. Whichever country we go to, we are focused on the welfare of the community, and that is also something here which we would like to do. And we would like to do it because particularly in this country, I see a degree of, I would say, receptivity and a local positivity, which I think is truly exceptional, and we would like to keep that strong. strong, we would like to keep that well nurtured. Now, apart from this, any relationship, there will always be new areas. After all, we are changing, Bahrain is changing, the world is changing. So we also discussed, what are the new things which we can do. Now, new things can sometimes be really new. Say, for example, is an area like space. It can be new because something different has come up in a country like India. We look at examples like a RuPay card or the use of UPI, cashless transactions. Or it can be a new policy. India today, for example, is open to Indian universities going out of India and establishing campuses. So how do we do new things? And again, part of the newness can even be new areas of business. There's a lot of interest, for example, particularly after COVID, in health. Health, not just in terms of health professionals coming, but health in terms of pharmaceutical manufacturing, health in terms of medical facilities. A lot of countries today do look to India as a partner to really improve their health system. So these are some of the examples that I'm sharing with you. But at the end of the day, well-being, however important, is contingent on security. Security, defense, safety, these are crucial issues for any country. And I must say here today that Bahrain is among our very trusted and very reliable defense and security partners. For many years, Bahrain hosts a platform called the CMF, Combined Maritime Force. It has a responsibility really of looking at this entire region, the sea space, which is very important because, if the seas are not safe, then trade is not safe, and the implications of that. And we have joined the Combined Maritime Force. We are taking part in some of its task forces. And how do we work with this body? How do we coordinate with that? How do we work with our Bahraini colleagues? I think this is also something which has been something very valuable. And finally, of course, Bahrain is part of the GCC. Anything we do in Bahrain has a larger significance. Often we may be locating ourselves here, but the impact of our presence in this country is not just here. It applies, it has a relevance to the entirety of the GCC. Again, we have always seen in Bahrain a very strong supporter, a country which has long been an advocate for India in the GCC, and it is something which we appreciate and value very much. Now, that's broadly been the state of the relations, but there is one issue which I would like to also place before you because it's very topical, and it is something which might come up in your own interactions with local people. So it's important that you know that. And that pertains to the conflict and violence that has been going on in the Middle East, West Asia we call it, since last year. It's important you know it, as I said, because India's approach is an approach which is balanced, which is not one-sided, very, which looks at the issues in all their complexity, and which also has a fundamental commitment to justice and equity. So I do want to share a few key points here. As a country that itself has been impacted so deeply by terrorism, we are very strongly opposed to terrorism and hostage taking. They should never be excused or condoned. But at the same time, it is very important that any action which is taken by any government or any armed force must always take care of civilian casualties. how to minimize civilian casualties, must always be respectful of humanitarian law, should cater for relief and looking after people who are affected in any operation. And that is why in the midst of all of this, what we've been seeing for the last year, India has also been contributing to the UN UNRWA, which is the primary relief agency in respect of the Palestinians. And India has supplied relief material to Palestine, to the Palestinian Authority, through Egypt. We have also given medicines, medical relief to Lebanon because of the fighting and the casualties which have taken place there. And at the end of the day, we do believe that there must be a solution to the Palestinian issue, because if there is not one, that will always remain the cause of instability in this region. So we do support a two-state solution. Obviously, that is something the international community has to discuss and agree upon. But it's important all of you know this, because this is today an issue which is very emotionally charged. I think in this region, it is in the minds not only of people like me who discuss and work on diplomacy, but I think even in the minds of the average people. People do want to know, okay, what is your country's position on this matter, and that's why I thought it's important for all of you to know that. So if ever you have these conversations, or even in terms of talking to your friends or people at your workplace, it's important you know what is your country's position out here. So with that, let me say a few things about developments at home, because you may be abroad, but I think when you are abroad, and people like us who have also spent a lot of their lives abroad, in fact when you live abroad, your mind is even more at home and interested in both the progress at home, concerned at what may be challenges at home, but always one part of you is there focused on India. Now I speak about what happens at home because again, it's understandable that you will take pride at progress at home. In many ways, what happens in India opens up opportunities for you, all of you abroad. But it's also true that the world looks at you. Every country in the world, people abroad look at you. They look at you differently today because of all the progress that has been made in India. So you are stakeholders in India, you're contributors to what is happening in India, and therefore you have every right to know and understand and be connected to developments in India. So how do I put it to you very, very simply? I would say perhaps today in many ways the world looks at India and recognizes that while much of the world has either not recovered from the COVID, or if it has recovered, it is struggling with the after effects of COVID, the economic after effects of COVID. In India, certainly, today the fact that our growth rates are back, that we are at that 7% growth level once again, I think it is something that the world definitely recognizes and respects. The second is actually the political stability. Because if you look at the world, I mean, every day all of you follow the news to some degree or the other. What we see across the world today is actually, disaffection, anti-incumbency, in many ways disruptions of various kinds. So it is very rare today in a democratic society to have a government back to back 3 times in power in our own country. It has happened only once before, and that was 60 years ago. So the fact today that you have a government which represents a high degree of political continuity, but most important, which has the ability to use the experiences gained over the last 10 years to actually accelerate progress and modernity and growth in India. That is something which definitely is a factor in the world's perception of India. Now, I don't have to tell you, I think most of you would be visiting India fairly frequently. You have seen the changes yourself. Again, it is not my contention that, things are perfect. This is always work in progress. But there's no question that, in the last decade, the country in many ways has taken some very big steps and very consequential steps in our journey towards Viksit Bharat. And if you look at it, not so much as individual steps, because you will see examples of it everywhere. Each one of you visiting whatever is your hometown or on the way, you will see the airports are different, the trains are different. In your own hometown, things are a little bit different. If you do business, that is a little bit different. You will see more schools and colleges, better lighting, maybe water supply is better. So you will judge it for yourself through your own experiences and by talking to your family and friends who live in India. But if I put it to you as an explanation, what has really changed in the last decade, I would say I could list 4 or 5 big initiatives. One, the fact that we have made it much easier to do business in India. This has definitely promoted that culture where there is stronger growth, better employment. We have made it easier, ease of living. We have improved ease of living for the common citizen. That for an average person, what interface they have with the government, what they need to do to get anything done, any kind of service done, what their daily life requirements are, those have become very much easier. Infrastructure has definitely transformed. I mean, if you look today at, as I said, there's no other country in the world which is building 7 to 8 airports a year. No other country in the world which is changing its railways at the rate at which we are, which is building highways at the speed at which we are, which is increasing education at the rate at which we are. Then I think a big factor in the change in India is the digital public infrastructure. The fact that so many services are today digitally available and they made the country more efficient. Frankly, they've reduced corruption in the country. In many ways, they have allowed government to reach out to many more citizens in a way, what we would do in lakhs, we are today doing in crores. What we were doing in crores, or what we thought we could do in crores, we are doing in tens of crores. So the reach out of the government today, the houses we build, the rations we give, the health support which is extended, the kind of farmers' benefits which are given, almost any kind of public service today, citizen service today, which is extended by the government, that has actually in scale and in its efficiency and in its honesty, it has really improved tremendously. And of course, at the end of it all, there is a certain vision today which is motivating the country. The call towards Viksit Bharat is a motivational call that we need big targets, big dreams for which we should aspire. And what it has done in many ways, it has inculcated a new spirit in the country. It's a new spirit which you can see particularly in younger people. So if you read about a successful Chandrayaan mission, or if you say, okay, during COVID we were the best vaccine producers who invented our own vaccine, or as I said, you see today a train like Vande Bharat, or on telecom an India stack and a 5G technology. Do understand today, these are all signs of a country which is more confident, which is more capable, and which is aspiring to something much bigger. So that is the state of the country. But again, I come back to the world, because we are today sitting in Bahrain. Many of you came here, some of you have lived here for generations. But I ask you to reflect on that also for a moment. You know, we have historically, all of us, thought of the world in a way like a marketplace. Marketplace where everybody does business. It still remains one. But the world is also today a workplace. It is a workplace where people go out in search of work. We used to do it largely within our own country, within our own borders, within our own society. We were comfortable doing it. But that's no longer the state of the world. The opportunities today are across the world. And if you look today in this region, see the number of Indians, the increase in the number of the Indian community across the GCC. Look at the demand, even in Bahrain. Look at the demand for almost any profession. You know, the world needs more doctors, it needs more nurses, it needs more chartered accountants, it needs more lawyers. In fact, it pretty much needs everything in larger numbers. And when it needs so much more services, so much more talent, and that cannot remain in one country to serve the rest of the world. There is today, we are seeing the beginnings of a totally different kind of international economy, which is centered on mobility, where many more people will be traveling. Because if there's one thing I can predict, your community numbers will increase, you know, in leaps and bounds in the times to come. So how do we prepare for that? And preparing for that has to be a partnership between the community that already is based abroad and with the government at home. And that is a subject which we need to look at. So let me conclude then by saying this to you, that there is a lot that is happening at home, which is should be a matter of pride and satisfaction to you. Please stay connected. I know I'm preaching to the converted here. I know most of you do that. But please stay as connected as you can. The fact that we have today so many Pravasi Bharatiya Saman awardees is one in a way motivation for that to do that. I remind you that the next Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is coming up next month. It will be in Odisha. I hope to see at least some of you out there. But when you think of India, certainly take, be happy, be pleased, be part of the achievements which are there. Be part of the efforts needed to progress India as well, because your contribution, and contributions can come in different ways. People who have experienced something abroad, people who have resources abroad, people who can motivate other people abroad. They are all today valuable at this point of our growth. And do recognize today that we are a country about whom the world has many expectations. I certainly heard that from the Bahraini leadership, that for them the fact that our naval ships are here helping to keep the sea safe, that our community members are here contributing to the economy of Bahrain, the fact that we are seen in very complex situation. There are not many countries which can say that I can talk to Iran and I can talk to Israel. I can talk to Palestine and I can talk to Israel. I can talk to Russia and I can go to Ukraine. There are not many countries today who have that ability. So it gives us really a very special value in the eyes of the world. And certainly we want to use that positioning to advance the interests of all of you out here. Once again, I'm really very appreciative of the fact you have all taken out time. I know it's, we all have busy lives, but for me it's a great pleasure before I leave, to be here and share some of my thoughts about what I've been doing, and also recognize the contribution that all of you are making to the relationship. And I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Now we open the floor for an interactive session. A couple of reminders before we go into the session. We request the community leaders to keep their questions concise so that we can engage with maximum queries as possible. Please raise your hand and a microphone will be brought to you. Please introduce yourself with your name prior to asking the question. To ensure that all questions are effectively answered, we will collect 3 questions at a time. Additionally, we ask to make sure that the questions are not repeated. Without further ado, let's begin our interactive session, and I would now hand over to His Excellency Vinod K. Jacob, the Indian Ambassador, to moderate the session.
Who are wishing to ask a question, please raise your hand.
Good evening, Your Excellency Minister. My name is Muhammad Hussain Malim, representing Bharati Tamil Association and non-resident Indian Tamil Association. I would like to appreciate Your excellent speech you made, and plus I would like to thank you from my heart for your intervention on this 30+ fishermen who are arrested by Bahrain Coast Guard while they are entering from Bahrain. We thought it's going to be a very complicated issue and these poor people will suffer very long. But your intervention and direction and the efficiency of our ambassador to India to Bahrain and all the officials of embassy, this matter was solved in a matter of weeks, which is totally unexpected. And we thank you from our bottom of our heart for this initiation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's very good of you to say so, but I want to make a larger point. You know, I spoke about the world as a global workplace. The fact is also more and more Indians leave the shores of India. They go as tourists, they go as students, they go to work. And we have seen, that they can get into situations where it is most important for the official system to do something about it. Because we have reached a stage we cannot leave our people in difficulty, anybody, in any country, to themselves. This is an obligation that we have to our citizen. And I would say, as someone who's been, who spent a lifetime in diplomacy, to me one of the big changes of the last decade has been this focus on the welfare of individual citizens. That it's not like we were not doing this before, but I think the kind of focus and the kind of push, and sometimes even the systems that, if any of you were to lose your passport somewhere or something unfortunate happens, today the mindset of the system has actually changed. Every embassy, every consulate, every ambassador knows that this is something that they have to do, and we use, because our relationships with the world is also that much stronger, we use those relationships for the benefit of ordinary people. But I appreciate very much that this particular incident is recognized by you, and I value the words that you have said.
Thank you. Here, Mr. Balu.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for a wonderful presentation, and we sincerely appreciate everything that you are doing for the country. And my name is Balasubramaniam. I practice here as a chartered accountant over 25 years. What visibly is evident is that the embassy has become really digital, in the sense that in delivering services and faster. That's one. But why I rose to stand here is I am also Vice Chairman of the Bahrain India Society, and we have a long-standing request for a double taxation treaty between the country of Bahrain and India. Just for the information, that Bahrain is the only country in the MENA region which does not have a double taxation treaty, and since corporate tax is going to be a reality in Bahrain, it would definitely be benefit for the both businesses, both Bahrain and India. And when you ask for a tax residency certificate from the National Bureau of Revenue, it very clearly says that those countries who do not have a DTAA cannot get this tax residency certificate. So if you can please look into that. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Yeah. Please hand over. There.
Your Excellency, thank you very much. We are very honored with your presence here. Being an avid fan of your writing, especially, so from the India way to why Bharat matters, and I feel it's precisely a starting point for my question as to, sir, we would like to know your thoughts on why Bharat matters in the next 5 years, in the 10 years, and what we as the expatriate community, especially in the Middle East, how we should contribute to adding charm to why Bharat matters.
Here. Bob.
Your Excellency, welcome to Bahrain. I am Bob Thakur. I am part of one of the oldest expatriate business community in Bahrain, and it was a privilege to have you at the Srinathji temple yesterday. Your book Bharat Matters and all those writings which you have said obviously highlights and accentuates what India is going to be in next few years. That's some question asked. How do we address the imbalance in the United Nations Security Council? We've been talking about it. It's an inevitable thing. You have said it, that it is inevitable. How do we break the stalemate, and when can we actually have that natural seat which we deserve? I believe, and I think everybody in this hall and 1.4 billion Indians believe we should have. Thank you.
One more. Here.
Good evening, Your Excellency. I am P.V. Radhakrishnan, a Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Awardee, as well as the President of the Bahrain Kerala Samajam. First of all, let me congratulate you. As you said, the world look at India differently today because of mainly the initiatives done by PM Modi ji in general and by you in particular. I take this opportunity to thank you for two different incidents which happened in this region. One, your swift involvement in releasing the former military officers who were jailed in Qatar, which has made us all proud. Number two, I acknowledge with thanks your call in the midnight to your counterpart in Bahrain for clearing the chartered flights, between India and Bahrain. Having said that, one issue which I represent the Keralites, actually, 60% of the Indian population in Bahrain are from Kerala, and our travel problems, increased day by day. There were, regular flights to Cochin, till recently. Now they have stopped. That is the case with Trivandrum as well as the Calicut. Please look into this, number one. Number two, see, out of the Indian community, 60% are from the Keralites. The Hindu community in the South Indian community, or predominantly the Keralite and Tamil and Telugu community, they don't have a place for practicing their faith. Temple, actually there is a temple in Manama, but we people follow other rituals, South Indian rituals. So your intervention in getting a space for getting to establish a temple will be highly appreciated. Number three, actually, we social clubs, we all practice our culture. We do have festivals, all those things. So we would appreciate if you put some pressure to get us more freedom, in the sense that permissions, for conducting programs, for collecting sponsorship. So this is a big issue for our social clubs. Thank you very much.
I think PBSA awardees can get to ask many questions within one question. That's a very special trait that you have. But let me start with the double taxation avoidance agreement. My sense, the reason why there wasn't one earlier was because of the perception in India that there wasn't a tax. The absence of a corporate tax, in a sense, led to a lack of interest in this matter. So I must share with you, it is something we discussed today, and we need to understand the changes which are taking place in the Bahrain taxation system, and a better understanding will enable us to respond to that situation, because quite frankly, if we have it with, I don't know if we have it with everybody in MENA, but definitely we have it with everybody in GCC, that I know. So let us look at that, because obviously, a country which is so positive, and communities elsewhere are benefiting from it, we see no reason why the same should not happen here. But we will need a little bit of time here, because you also know it is something which is negotiated. But I do wish to assure you that it's on our radar, it has been discussed, and we will look at it going down the road. There were two clubbed questions, but let me come to the why Bharat matters. Look, we are already the most populous country in the world, but that itself doesn't mean that much, because we have been among the most populous countries now for many years. So what has changed? Not just our numbers. What has actually changed is the capability, the confidence, the impact that Bharat makes on the world. Because at the end of the day, the world is competitive. The world looks to see if some other country or some other people, do they impact my life or not? You can be in large numbers and impact very few people. You won't matter. But you can be in small numbers and impact a lot of people. You'll matter. But if you are in large numbers and impactful, that's like a double impact you make on the world. So if you see today, where is there, you ask me next 5 years, I'd say 5 to 10 years, where will the growth come for the global economy? I think the answer is India. Bharat will be a big part of that growth. Where we speak today, there's a knowledge economy, world of AI. So AI needs people. What does AI need at the end of the day? It needs chips, it needs electricity, and it needs people. And you will then apply the combination of all of that to different products and different services. So where is that talent pool in the world? A large part of it is in India. When you see in terms of, the new demands in a way, that, an economy which is $4 trillion, which is today growing at that kind of speed. Again, look at it from the world's point of view, that why, we see today almost every week, we see, there's a foreign delegation, there's a foreign leader, there's a foreign business delegation. Why is that? Again, because they see that in many, many areas there is that demand. But there is also the part which we will impact the world. That whatever you might say, we are a civilization. We bring to bear, in a way, when you speak about our practices, we bring to bear all the attributes of 5,000 years of people living together. When we do things in the world, we don't do it in haste. We think about the consequences. We try to consider the attitude and interests of everybody else involved in that issue. So there is a unique quality about us, which I think people do are beginning to see. In fact, when I ended, I said, look, why is it we are able to talk to parties who don't talk to each other? Because I think somewhere there is a certain objectivity about us, that we don't take one-sided positions. We try to consider, even in our own lives, there is a certain, because we are in a way so pluralistic, we are multi-faith, we are multi-language, we don't take one dimension alone. I think this makes us very different, and I would argue that it gives us a particular sort of positioning in a world which is why Bharat matters. Now what we have to do, sir, is to make that positioning accepted by the UN, the body of the UN. And my guess is today, actually, if I'm very honest with you, I think if you have a vote in the UN about who you want to see out there, I have no doubt, that there will be support for us. However, this is one of those situations, it's like a club where you're asking the present club members, saying, let another person become member of that club. So they all, have different degrees of hesitation there. But I am confident for this reason, precisely because of what I have said, our weight, our capability, our contribution, our impact. It will become harder and harder with each passing year. I mean, if I even were to look at the last 2 years, it's very interesting. We had the presidency of the G20, in 2023. Many countries have had this presidency before us. One issue had been there in the G20 for many years, which is when they selected the top 20 G20 is the top 20 economies of the world. Obviously, there were very few African members because they weren't in the top 20. So in Africa, there's been a long-standing demand saying, give Africa collectively a place. Every G20 would come, and I've attended the last 10, I can tell you. Every G20 would end up in the same way. People say, yes, we should do it. Then the meeting would take place and say, this time we couldn't do it. Next time somebody will do it. This is how it was going. Now, in our case, we said, look, Africa has a reason, it's a just cause, somebody needs to make that effort, it's our turn, let's make it. So, now what does it do? Today, there are 54 African countries. Believe me, each one of them today says, look, whatever you might say, the Indians did it, and we didn't gain anything by doing it. There's no self-interest involved. But we did it when they know that many others could have done it but did not do it. The same story, for example, went true for vaccines. Think about that vaccine period, where there was a shortage of vaccine. There's almost like, those who had it were hanging on to it. The rich, the developed countries, there were countries which had 4, 5, 6 times the number of vaccine doses as the size of the population. One country I read had 8 times that size, and they were still asking you for vaccine supply after having 8 times the supply. And yet there were countries where there was not one dose. There were small islands. Now, many of them later told us that they actually had no hope. They had given up the idea. They thought COVID will come, COVID will go, others will get vaccinated, God only knows what will happen to us. Now, it was not necessary for us to supply them with vaccines. We kind of did it, we paid for much of it ourselves. But what we did was we stepped forward for countries who were left behind. Now, even today it is now, you can say, 3 years, 2 to 3 years since vaccination is over. Last month, I was with the Prime Minister in the Caribbean, in Guyana. And we had a meeting of Caribbean countries. Even today they talk about it. In fact, one after another, they stood up and said, look, Prime Minister Modi, we never had a chance to meet you in person after that. So the first thing we want to do is at least say thank you. Now, when you say, why Bharat matters, these are all reasons why Bharat matters. Africa says, okay, here's a country which is willing to speak up for us. A lot of the small island states say, okay, here's somebody willing to do COVID for us. So we have that sense today that, even if our own direct interests are not involved, we are still willing to step forward. And I think that is why our UN Security Council seat will gain more and more support. And I honestly believe that it cannot be stopped forever. At some stage, we will definitely create a situation where our membership would be inevitable. There were some practical issues that you raised. Travel problems. I would say, there are a set of different issues here. One part of it is the airlines themselves. You are connected with the industry, you know better than me. Today in India, the airlines are privatized. So it's in many ways a decision which they have to make. But certainly, we will encourage them to look at the Gulf generally, but especially those countries in the Gulf where the services, the flights, the number, the capacity is less, and even that is actually today not being fully serviced. So I will, certainly, speak to them, and I'll also speak to my cabinet colleague Ram Mohan Naidu ji, who deals with it. On the issue of, the temple, your cultural activities, etc. Look, again, my urging to you would be, this is a society where there is a lot of goodwill for us, a lot of respect for us. I've heard people say very, very warm things about the community. I think you are in a position to find a way of getting the authorities to understand and appreciate these requirements as legitimate. Certainly, as a partner government, from our side, we will be supportive of your aspirations, but it is important that they hear it primarily from the community, because at the end of the day, they must feel that this is a decision which is something between the government here and the community here. We are your well-wishers, obviously, and we are the government's well-wishers as well. So from our side, whatever we can do, we would, but I do think that the primary urging should come from the community. So we can take one round.
One more round. Vivek.
Thank you, Your Excellency. During your intriguing speech, you mentioned about chartered accountants. So introduce myself, I'm CA Vivek Gupta, Chairperson of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bahrain chapter. I have a request and a question. So chartered accountants are backbone of financial economy in many countries, not just India, Indian chartered accountants. However, despite that fact, CA is not recognized qualification in GCC, any of the GCC country. Though we are in discussion with our parent body to get it recognized, but till date, we are also relied on our BCom or BSc degrees to get the visas to work in the region. So if something can be looked into those notes, that will be really appreciated. And the question is, any message you have for the chartered accountants in the region? Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Thomas. I am an advocate, Indian advocate practicing or consulting in Bahrain. There are some agreements, mutual cooperation agreement on civil, commercial and criminal matters signed back in 2004. But there are no rules made of it So we cannot implement the judgment issued in Bahrain in India, nor judgment issued vice versa. But last year, I think, in UAE, with UAE, India signed or implemented all the rules. Now any judgment can be enforced in India easily. So if something can be done, like the double taxation, because as the trade grows, there are a lot of disputes. I myself have around 5-6 cases, judgment from Bahrain to be executed in India. And I am finding it very difficult to do it. My second request, see, there are a lot of low income class people here, and there is an inheritance issue. See, in Bahrain, there are very clear rules, laws, regulations, and they are implementing it. The issue here is the cost of getting a judgment in Bahrain is much higher. And a low income worker who should get, 1,000 dinar or 500 dinar out of his settlement or salary or anything, he may be unable to do it. So if something can be done on a government to government basis, it will be very helpful. Thank you, sir.
The lady, please.
Hello, Excellency, sir. Hello, sir. It's a great honor to be here. Myself, Dr. Jaishankar Sarna. I am the Vice President of the Indian Ladies Association, the oldest women expat group in the entire GCC. In this political forum, I am going to ask, or I think it's important to acknowledge the human part of the leadership. Sir, Honorable Sir, can I ask you, how do you personally manage the stress that your job requires? It would be very helpful for everyone sitting here. How do you manage the stress, and how do you cope up with the stress that every second you face? Thank you.
So there, yeah. Please, the lady there.
Good evening, Honorable Minister Dr. Jaishankar, Your Excellency Mr. Jacob, distinguished members, guests, and the audience. My name is Antara. I'm from Assam. I'm a little bit overwhelmed to meet you in person. It is an absolute pleasure and honor to meet you and be a part of this wonderful gathering. Being a proud Indian and a wellness professional myself, I feel highly proud and inspired how India has become a global leader in promoting wellness to the world. Through its many initiatives like in International Yoga Day, emphasize on Ayurveda, wellness, tourism, etc. So your effort to strengthen India's heritage with the world deeply resonates with my passion for sharing India's culture to the world. And I'm also grateful for Indian embassy around the world and in Bahrain for promoting wellness in many ways. And I have been very fortunate to be a part of many of these initiatives. I have two questions.
I think you answered her stress question.
Thank you. Thank you. As yoga and wellness have gained global recognition, what steps the Indian government is taking further to integrate wellness wellness practices further? And my second question is that how can wellness professional like me be actively associated with Indian Embassy or other institutions around the globe to amplify wellness heritage and wellness legacy worldwide? Thank you.
We'll take one last one. Yeah.
Honorable External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and His Excellency Indian Ambassador Shri Vinod K. Jacob. Good evening, sir. My name is Jagdish. I am from Telugu Kala Samiti, President, Bahrain. It works under Ministry of Social Development. It is recognized, and we continuously work with Indian Embassy, and we represent Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So we do many welfare activities. In Bahrain, around 50,000 blue collars are there. So we are doing a lot of welfare service with the help of Indian Embassy. They are very greatly cooperate. They are helping us to solve many problems. Thank you for that. And what I got an idea is, we are getting some support from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. And central government also, can we have a separate cell for these welfare activities? So it will be helpful, I feel. That is my first question. And also we are doing a lot of welfare and for rich culture, heritage. It is a 25 years old organization. We are doing a lot of activities. So sometimes we are facing some sponsorship issues, everything. So to do more better, suppose some land or some for constructing a building, any support from the central government, like these organizations, it will be helpful, sir. And two more questions for India purpose, sir. India, because growing very fast and it is doing very well, but we are having a lot of IITs, NITs, research centers there. But still I feel that research center side, we need more research is required, sir. Because everything we should be able to produce, India should be able to produce. So research side, like IIT, how NITs are there, we should have a separate research colleges, and this very, very important, sir. And one more thing is, I am basically from Andhra Pradesh. I worked in the nuclear power plant, and after that I worked in combined cycle power plants. It's a combined cycle gas power plants. And now in India, in Andhra Pradesh, all the combined cycle power plants are closed conditions, sir. Because why the reason is lack of gas. Because 5,000 crores of construction plants, banks are, it is like a scrap, sir. So it is become scrap. So I think maybe some expert committee may be needed to reopen this gas power plant, sir. Because in front of us, we are seeing this one. I have written the letters to the government also regarding this one, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, thank you all. And let me start with our chartered accountant friend there. I would say anything I can do for, what is my message? Chartered accountants are very important people. And I think after my boss and my doctor, you come next in my order of priority. There are things I have to do annually which reminds me how important chartered accountants are. But honestly, I was not aware of what you are saying. I have to look at it in terms of recognition of CA, because my impression is a little bit different, okay? Because I do recollect some problem with chartered accountants had in Kuwait, and my memory could be off. I didn't get the impression that it was not like they were not recognized at all. But if you can send to the ambassador something, I'd be very happy to follow up, because it is a very critical profession. It is the backbone at the end of the day of business, and we certainly want business to flourish between us and the GCC. So if there is a lacuna to be addressed, I'd be happy to do that. On the second issue, this mutual cooperation agreement which you raised, again, what often happens is sometimes agreements are reached and not followed up. Sometimes discussions are initiated but agreements are not reached. So it is possible, in fact I encounter this situation from time to time, where a kind of a job is left half finished, that it isn't followed through to the logical end. So if you would be good enough to provide us the details, because when we look at the GCC countries, and Bahrain is very much a part of that. I can see a situation, we need many more, the original framework is like a very basic framework, okay? As the relationship deepens in many more areas, we will need many more agreements. If you look today at some of, our big, deep relationships, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands of agreements that we have with some of those countries. So in your case, I say this, but to others also, that if any of you in your particular profession or area of interest feel that there should be an agreement which we have not done, feel that an agreement has been done but has not been followed up, see any kind of gap, we are open to suggestions from your side. What is it we need to make this framework more relevant, more efficient, and in a way more practical on the ground? So I would be welcoming of any of this, and I would request you to just give me something specific to work on. I'd be happy to take it up. On your inheritance issue, again, I must say it is something new. Some years ago we revised we have something called the Indian Community Welfare Fund. We revised it in order to cater for the needs of blue collar workers. And we have a provision which deals with legal support, but I'm not sure it actually addresses this situation that you have referred to. I will see, here what can be done. Certainly, such this category of people, we need to be creative about the way we can find. We can't tell them the rules don't provide for it. I think we need some thinking. I'll talk to Ambassador. I'll talk to my colleagues as well who deal with this. The next two questions. It was not a facetious remark. When you said look. In a way, you can say everybody has stress of some kind. Partly experience itself deals with a lot of things, if you've been doing something for a long time, you take everything in your stride. But still, there are situations but I think everybody handles it differently. Sometimes, just being with your family helps you deal with stress. The young lady there spoke about wellness practices. I, over these years, have started paying maybe a little bit more attention to my own mornings than I used to before. So I think if you do some, you stretch out in the morning, or you do yoga, or you play some sports, I think all these things build a degree of, I would say, you start your day much more at ease with yourself. But one great stress reliever is actually to have a very supporting environment around you. Nothing like good colleagues, good friends, and a good community. You're all helpful to, I've come to a place like Bahrain. I said, okay, this visit is going to be a nice visit, because I know everybody is going to say nice things. I know everything is going to move forward. So look, you took a little bit of load off my shoulders. So, but on your question about what can we do, I would relate to you the set of conversations we had with Prime Minister Modi when we were looking at this idea of International Day of Yoga. He had this idea when he came. He had just become Prime Minister in 2014. He had come to New York, and he brought up this idea. This was September of 2014, and his point was, look, different countries, different organizations practice different kinds of yoga. There is interest, but in a way there's need both for some degree of encouragement, but some degree of very light, you can say, guidance kind of, but it should not be so, people should not feel somebody's trying to control it, because it's a bottom up, it's something which has started by people. It's after all, it's a civilizational tradition. So I do make that point to you. I think today, when I look at the world, I cannot think of any cultural practice, any wellness practice which is more pervasive than yoga. I mean, it's heads and shoulders about anything which from any other culture. And part of the reason is we have let it kind of grow and flower and, spread on its own. So it has to be a kind of almost like a popular movement, popular interest which is moving forward. Clearly, the embassy can help. I feel one of the reasons we do International Day of Yoga is to enthuse people, to create that moment when people step forward. Many people hesitate to do that. Even I used to hesitate to do it till 10 years ago. So to come out, to spend time with others, to do it as a collective activity, and then it spreads. So by all means, I think the embassy would be very supportive. But at the end of the day, the more community-based it is, the more voluntary it is, the more of a ground movement it is, I think that is really the way it should actually develop. On finally the issue of, do we have a separate cell for wellness? Different state governments, wherever there's a community from a particular state, a state naturally will take interest. There's nothing wrong with that. But where an embassy is concerned, the embassy is there for welfare. It is the primary task of an embassy. It is not, you ask me what is the welfare cell for Indian Embassy Bahrain, he is the welfare cell. That is today, what an embassy is supposed to be about. And the image which we had over many years, that there's a government office, you can't get in, nobody will see you, they won't talk to you properly, they'll tell you come back next week. We're trying to break out of that image, and then this idea, the blue collar people, because often, in many countries, many societies, people would not look at workers, they would look at people they know socially. So this is today, in a way, the change that we are trying to bring about in foreign policy in our embassies, and I can see, after all, I've also spent my lifetime doing this. I can see the change today, and here again I say this, it will change when we get feedback that we cannot anticipate everything. We will not have a solution for everything, but if from the different communities, from the ground, people tell us, have you looked at this? There is this problem, you need to do more of that. We will do some, maybe we'll not do everything. But your feedback, your involvement, your support, this is what will make us a good embassy, a good government, and a great country. And that is why, we need this constant, communication today between the community and between the Indian government, with the ambassador, with the other diplomats. So once again, really, thank you all very much. Thank you for taking the time out. It's really been very, very good to meet all of you.
Thank you, sir.